and regulations in place for people who want to transition. That is to say, to express their internal gender externally in such a way that bigoted people won't know the difference. That's the way I look at it. I can express myself all I like, but I get a ton of flack for expressing myself inappropriately for my gender. When I try to comply with the gender rules, I'm no longer expressing myself. I'm expressing my interpretation of a set of rules. Now, if I could grow a beard and have a deepened voice, I would then be expressing my gender in a socially approved manner and stop receiving flack and start receiving the levels of respect and attention that is due each and every one of us when we are being our authentic selves. There.
Makes sense.
And now the problem I'm having, and you were telling me about, is going to the doctor and having to say to the doctor, I'm transgender, I'd like an appointment with a therapist. And then you have to spend an entire year talking about it to that therapist before the therapist decides you're trans enough to ruin your life and become a freak.
Yeah, 6
I've
months
been a
to a
freak
year.
my whole life.
They
I've
expect
been
you to
a
cross-live.
woman and a freak. Well, and how on earth am I supposed to cross-live? I've been cross-living my whole life, my entire life, and every once in a while I get dressed up in drag, and people tell me what a beautiful woman I am. Gee, thank you. All I ever wanted in life was to be beautiful. Is that what women want? It's not what I want. I get so mad at the gatekeeping. They expect me to sit down and argue passionately about things that are deeply emotional and in some cases traumatic to prove to them that my life is bad enough to be worth ruining it. And I don't think it's ruining your life. I don't think that taking a hormone that changes your appearance is any different from getting plastic shoved into your tits that then goes hard 20 years later.
Causes you cancer
And,
then you're dead.
and has to be taken,
before
and then
age
you get a
60
full
like someone I
mastectomy.
know.
There are so many ways that people are socially approved to destroy their health
Yep.
and their well-being.
I know
We
a
all
woman
know
that
what
got the
over-plastic
plastic
surgeon
boobs.
people look like. How about women with those corsets squinched down? How about...
Oh, that's painful.
There's so many things.
To even look at.
Well, when women just shove their feet in those stupid little shoes, they're ruining their back. They're ruining their chances. Well, I'm 54 years old. I can ruin my chances to be a breeder. I can ruin my lost beauty. I can ruin all that. And I don't want to sit and have to justify it to strangers. People who don't have an opportunity to see me, being me, out in the world as myself. That's what's driving me nuts about not wanting to go see the doctor. More than anything. He doesn't know me. Why should he be making that decision? And then that's what you did, was you went to a stranger.
I did. Actually, no. What I did was slightly illegal. I got testosterone for free from a friend. Well, no, it cost me a dinner. I went out and got some groceries, and my roommate at the time cooked him
nice.
a really lovely supper, and that's all he
That's all
required
I
of
wanted.
it. Yeah, he was HIV positive gay man, and it was part of his cocktail. He had a whole medicine chest. You went into his bathroom and opened up his cupboards like bottles. But anyways, he had vitamins, he had whatever medications, plus
and access to
testosterone.
lots of it.
And they wanted to keep him. I mean, shit, he lived for 30 years with HIV
Okay.
because of the really excellent care he got, and the
So
testosterone was part of that.
The testosterone
So he
had
brought
damage to
in a
his...
paper lunch bag. He brings it to me, opens it up, and and he shows me the bottle. Still had the seal on it, like it had never been cracked. He was
Oh.
authentic. He gave me needles that had never been used. He gave me
Oh my
testosterone
God,
in
with
a bottle
injections.
that had never
That's
been cracked.
courage.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then my roommate, who knew how to give a needle, crazy
And you're
trans
being
woman that I
brave.
used to know, and she gave me my first shot. Then eventually I got to see an endocrinologist, and I explained to him that I didn't want to forever take this route, but I was desperate enough that I wanted to try this shit.
Yeah.
And so he kind of nodded his head understandingly, and then wrote me a prescription.
Well, isn't there supposed to be some point at which you're considered to be fully responsible for being an idiot?
Yeah, no doubt.
And you get to experiment with yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
There should be some point in maturity where you say, you know what? If but then they go, oh yeah, but we're going to be paying your health bills. Well, buddy, you already are. Get over yourself.
Oh, a boss made that comment to a coworker behind my back. He asked the coworker, "What's with Tom? Blah blah blah. Is he? Is she? Is he? Blah blah."
Asking questions that he shouldn't need to, need to know.
And then said, "And my tax dollars are paying for this." And I'm like, what an ignorant comment that was. Good grief.
Yeah, your tax dollars are paying for your Viagra too, dude.
And a whole lot of other things like.
Yeah, there are a lot of things like going to the dermatologist and getting pimples popped.
If you really don't like your the socialist way we run things in this country, you can always move to a more capitalist country down south
you can't. You can't actually get green cards and visas and residential permits that easily. No. You really can't get that stuff that easily. That's one of those arguments that drives me red. If you don't like it, you can leave. No. You can't leave. And no, that's not the correct answer. If you don't like it, fucking do something and fix it. Don't sit there and on Coffee Row swearing about it and doing nothing when you get home. You're not even doing the legitimate, appropriate taught in social studies. Apparently, though, Americans don't take social studies. But when you... No, exactly. When you take that politics and social studies course, they actually teach you how to control your government. There's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, I think there have been a number of Hollywood movies over the years, and there was a real switch around from socialist movies, socialist control your government movies, to keep to yourself and be bigger than everybody else movies. But at the time, there was a number of movies where the heroic act of the day was the heroine convincing thousands of people to write letters to their congressman or their government representative. And that flood of letters is the big finale at the end of the movie. And I still remember it in my head. It's black and white. Mailman keeps delivering bags of letters. And the two were like, oh, we won! And the congressman is like, I have to do what they say now. And they've completely stopped producing media with that kind of a civil action going on. Because the corporations don't want you to be civically active. That's why this is not an advertiser-friendly video. This is not an advertiser-friendly channel. Because I keep coming back to this. The capitalists, the corporations, the profiteers, the people who put money first, they don't want you to care about each other. They don't want you to have power over your government. And they don't want transgendered individuals to be able to be transgender because we're bloody breaking the rules. Don't break the rules. The capitalists put them in place for a reason. The capitalists supplied public schools to teach us those rules. Think about it. A lot of the stuff that we learned in public school, how to write neatly in a ledger, how to do the calculations for stuff. It was all about creating people who could monotonously do repetitive tasks. And were basically literate in math and language.
The only class I could never figure a purpose for was algebra. I've never really used algebra in life, but I've used math.
I bet you have used algebra. Algebra is math using placeholders for the numbers. It's a way of creating a formula that you can change the number out and get the same result. So if you want to find out how many sugars to a gallon and all you've got is teaspoons to a liter, it's algebra. You're creating a framework that you can swap out the numbers. So if you know that it takes 2 tablespoons for a liter, and then you know that there's 4 liters in a gallon, or 4.5 liters in a gallon, you have all the numbers that you're going to plug into the algebra, where if A plus B equals X, and then you want to figure out what C is in C plus D equals, and then there's a multiplication. I don't even know, but if you need to write it down for other people, you replace all the numbers. You don't just write down, well, for instance, with this formula with a liter of water, because they may have an occasion where they've got 2 gallons that they have to bring down. It's a shorthand of writing down a math equation that solves a particular problem. So E equals mc squared, where E is velocity, energy. Energy equals mass times constants, which represents velocity, squared. That is an algebraic equation. And we don't know what the number is for E, or for M, or for C. We can know what those qualities are, but we still don't know the number until we measure something. So we measure the energy, or we measure and we only need to measure 2 parts of that equation to know what the final answer is, to get any other part of it. So you've got 3 parts, E, M, and C, and you could figure out any one of those numbers with any other 2 of those numbers. That's what algebra is for.
Maybe I just thought of a time where I may have used some kind of algebra when I was delivering magazines, and I would forget to fill in one of my numbers. So I would wait till the end of the day, and I had all the rest of them filled in. Then I could figure out what the missing
That's
was.
what algebra does. If you had written it down, you could write it down 50 times, and at some point you'd go, oh, well, this is A is this input number times B, like A is the lowest and B is the highest, and you just assign these letters in place of the numbers so that you could just plug them in.
My constant was, I had 100 to begin with, and I had so many at each drop, but of course I'd forget, I didn't write down. I just got in my truck and drove to the next stop. I'd do that. But I was, at the end of the day, I knew what I started with, and I could how the rest of them filled out.
Algebra is like
at least
musical
give a really
notation.
good educated guess of what it was, and that was close enough for Sherry. She was happy with
and
it.
if you had to teach it to a classroom full of people, that's where your algebra would come. It's like musical notation for mathematics. In music, you can play music. You can pick up an instrument and you can make music happen. And it can be unique music on the fly. It can be music that you remember and repeat. But in order for someone to learn it, they have to sit in the room with you and hear it, or with someone who's heard it. Whereas you can write it down in sheet music, and even though everybody stops playing it, someone can pick it up one day and start it new. And algebra is a way of passing on information like that. It's just musical notation for math. Shorthand. And it is shorthand, because if you wrote it out longhand, it would take a paragraph to explain. Like it took paragraphs to explain what the mathematical formula did, let alone how it did it. But in an algebraic equation, it might only take 5 letters, and then a paragraph explaining what the letters stand for. An entire freaking book!
Yeah.
Do you think there's still money in publishing?
There must be, because Robert J. Sawyer, really good author that I've read some of his works, seems to be doing quite well with it. Yeah, he still publishes books that are on the shelves at my library where I work, and they go off the shelves and they get returned.
I keep wanting to be a published author and then thinking it's probably dead.
Quantum Night was actually a really good book. It was quite... I haven't read it all the way through yet, but I keep reading enough feedback that people are... When the president of the U.S. was recently elected, we know who I'm talking about, his
Sometimes
book,
I call it
Quantum Night, was... Everyone kept saying it's prophetic as to what's going on. Yeah, and that's what people keep saying about that book, that it reminds them too much of current events. Robert J. Sawyer?
Stephen Sawyer. Or no, Robert J. Sawyer.
Robert J. Sawyer is his name.
Bob Sawyer.
Quantum Night is the book.
Sawyer like Tom Sawyer, but it's
and
Bob.
It's quite popular,
like
too.
every Bob and Tom,
I will finish
this
it one
one's
of these
Bob.
days when I'm actually... I have a hard time with reading these days. I either read all the way through and it grabs my attention, or I get bored. And it can be the really good... I'm, nothing against his writing. It's good writing, but It's me. It's me. It's my attention span. It seems to.
I've got one in the bathroom that's got me going. It's a science fiction from the 80s. Jack Chalker. Jack L. Chalker. This one's called The Well of Souls. The thing I'm enjoying about it is he takes you into extremely, well, into fantasy realms, but it's extreme fantasy. It's so far off of reality. And he frames it all with the sciencey technology thing. That we're in the future and we have all this amazing technology. This sort of a hopeful, there will be a future kind of a thing that sci-fi offers. But
That's why I like Star Trek so much.
It's when he's describing being an alien. You know, some of his characters get popped into alien bodies and they become aliens and they have to figure it out. It just keeps me going. Speaking of which, I keep it in the bathroom. I've got to go to the bathroom, so I'm going to stop the camera, go to the bathroom, and come back after you've had your bathroom break. You'll probably need one. Get that coffee, and we'll refresh, and then we'll come back. Okay. And the way I'm going to do this recording is I'm just going to go until it seems like we've been going at least an hour. And I'm going to chop it down. I'm just going to go for a while. I didn't even have the sense to pay attention to the clock when we started. Yeah. Bathroom break, and we got ourselves some kombuchas. We've got grapefruit sparkling fermented tea and ginger pear sparkling fermented tea from Parker View Brews here in Saskatchewan. I think they're probably from down around Moose Jaw. Nope, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I can't wait to see if my kombucha works out. That'd be so cool. Making my own. These were $4 a bottle. That's cheap. That's half the usual price.
In my world, that's expensive.
Exactly.
My world don't have a lot of money.
I will start you making your own kombucha. Now that I've got a SCOBY, if I do things right, the
They're both gonna go off at the same time.
Oh yeah, they are. You managed to set them for the same time.
I was just watching yours.
We're using the countdown timer on the phone. Tom knows how to get to the clock. I don't. So I used Google's voice thing where you click the little microphone or you go okay Google and then it comes up and I tell it what I want to do. Set a countdown timer. And so then but I didn't tell it how, or I didn't tell it how long, and so that made it pause and ask me how long, and I didn't know how to continue from there. But it's going now.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I forgot that there's a clock on this thing, and I don't remember how to access it. But that it has a stopwatch and a countdown timer. Yeah, once, probably by New Year's, I'll have a SCOBY I can give you. You make a really strong brew of black tea. What I do is I make super concentrated, like way too much black tea powder in the teapot, and then I add cool filtered water to cool it down after I've let it sit for like an hour or so, steeping. And then you add sugar to that, and I've tried maple syrup and got a moldy batch, so I wouldn't recommend deviating at the outset. You add sugar. There's, I think it was a cup for a gallon of kombucha. So I've got a gallon of strong black tea with a cup of sugar in it at room temperature, and you put the SCOBY in. And then I cover it up because I've got grow lights in the room because you have to be UV protected and temperature stabilized. And you put a cheesecloth or something to keep bugs from getting at it. Not that there'd be any this time of year, but fruit flies happen.
I know, I have a couple of them.
Okay, so that's what you're keeping out
They
of your
seem to be
kombucha.
long-term pets, like maybe I should name the little buggers or something, because, you know, no
There
matter
are
what
also-
I do, there they are.
There are also a type of fly known as drain flies that look just like fruit flies, but they breed in grease that gets trapped on the sides of your drain. And they have a larval stage which is so resistant to the extremes that you get in there. That's resistant to acid, to heat, Those things are like got little armored plates on them, and they burrow down in that grease, and they're at the bottom of the grease, between the grease and their armored plates.
So when I
Nothing short of physical scrubbing will get them out.
So when I pour boiling water down my drain, that
Doesn't
probably,
bother them.
oh my.
I know, I was shocked when I found that out. Vinegar seems to slow them down a little. But
Punch that down.
physically scraping the grease out is the ultimate ticket. And if you did it as far as the P-trap, that ought to do it, because it can't fly through the water. It can't get past the P-trap. And if there's nothing above the P-trap, and that's the part that you can put a bucket under it, you can unscrew it, you can dump the water out, and then you can muck about between that and the sink all you want.